Back in 1765, a French philosopher named Denis Diderot received a gift, a beautiful scarlet-red robe, and the moment he put it on, something weird happened. He looked around his study, and suddenly everything else looked terrible. His desk looked shabby, his chair looked worn, his bookshelf looked embarrassing. So he replaced the desk, then the chair, then the whole room. One gift turned into a complete renovation, and by the end of it, Diderot was in debt, all because of a robe. Here's the thing. That story is your bank account right now. This video is about why smart, hard-working people who make genuinely good money still feel broke at the end of every month. And I'm not going to tell you to stop buying coffee or make a spreadsheet. What I'm going to do is show you the actual psychological and economic forces working against you, most of which you've never heard named. Because once you see them, you can't unsee them. There are 9 of these forces, and some of them have been understood by economists and researchers for decades. They just never made it into the conversation most people are having about money. So let's fix that. The first thing you need to understand is what happened to Diderot, because it's not just a cute historical anecdote. Researchers actually named this pattern. It's called the Diderot Effect, and it describes how one nice purchase creates a silent pressure to upgrade everything around it. You get a new couch, and suddenly the rug looks wrong. You upgrade the rug, and now the curtains are embarrassing. You fix the curtains, and now the whole room feels off because the TV is old. None of these upgrades were things you wanted before the couch. The couch created the need. And this happens constantly, with cars, with clothes, with phones, with apartments. Every upgrade quietly raises your baseline, and your baseline is the thing that determines how rich or broke you feel. So even when your income goes up, if your baseline keeps pace with it, you feel exactly the same. But here's where it gets more complicated, because it's not just about upgrades creating more upgrades. Your brain is also physically wired to make cutting back feel worse than it should. There's a well-documented concept in psychology called loss aversion, and the basic idea is that your brain registers a loss about twice as intensely as an equivalent gain. So gaining $100 feels good, but losing $100 feels roughly twice as bad. What this means for your spending is that once your lifestyle reaches a certain level, it basically locks in. The upgrade felt great when you made it, once. But the idea of going back feels like genuine pain, not just inconvenience. This is why just cut back is such useless advice. You're not being weak or undisciplined. Your brain is doing exactly what brains do, which is fight hard against anything that feels like a loss. Spending really does only click upward. The ratchet only turns one direction. So you've got lifestyle creep from the Diderot effect, and you've got loss aversion making it nearly impossible to reverse. That's already a pretty brutal combination. But there's a third thing happening that most people never even consider, and it has nothing to do with how much you spend. In 1998, 2 Harvard researchers, Solnick and Hemenway, ran a study where they asked people a simple question. Would you rather earn $50,000 a year while everyone around you earns $25,000? Or would you rather earn $100,000 a year while everyone around you earns $200,000? Think about that. The second option is objectively more money. Twice as much, actually. But roughly half the people in the study chose the first option, the lower absolute income, because it meant being relatively better off than the people around them. We don't just want money. We want more money than the people we're comparing ourselves to. Feeling broke is often not a number, it's a comparison. And if the people around you keep earning more, you can get a raise and still feel poorer because your position in the group hasn't changed. This is why moving to a wealthier neighborhood, getting promoted into a higher earning peer group, or even just spending more time on social media can make you feel broke even when nothing about your actual finances changed. The comparison pool shifted and your brain recalibrated accordingly. That's important. But there's another layer to this that makes it even more disorienting, and this one is about what your raise actually means in real terms. It's called the money illusion, and it's one of the most quietly devastating things that happens to people's finances. Here's how it works. Let's say you get a 5% raise. Your paycheck goes up. You feel good about it. But if inflation that year is 6%, your raise was actually a pay cut in real terms. The number on your paycheck is bigger, but the amount of stuff that number can buy is smaller. Your brain reads the bigger number and registers it as progress, but your purchasing power quietly went backward. This is a huge part of why people get raises and still feel like they're falling behind, because sometimes they literally are, and they don't know it because the nominal number went up. So you've got your lifestyle ratcheting upward, your brain making it painful to cut back, your comparison group making you feel relatively poorer, and your raise potentially being worth less than you think. And on top of all of that, the way you pay for things is actively working against you. There's research from behavioral economists Prelec and Simester showing that people will pay up to twice as much for the same item when using a credit card versus cash. Twice. The reason is something called the pain of paying. When you hand over physical cash, there's a small but real psychological sting. You feel the money leaving. That sting is actually a natural brake on spending. It makes you pause, even briefly, and reconsider. But when you tap your phone or card, that sting is almost completely gone. And when you set up autopay or use buy now pay later services, it's not just reduced, it's completely removed. The brake pedal was taken out of the car. You're not bad with money. You're using a system that was specifically designed to make spending feel like nothing, because the less it hurts, the more you do it. Now here's one that's going to hit a little differently, and I want you to sit with it for a second. You probably have a number in your head. An income level, a savings amount, some financial milestone. And you've told yourself that once you hit that number, you'll feel secure. Maybe it's $100,000 a year. Maybe it's a certain amount in savings. Maybe it's paying off a specific debt. And the feeling you're chasing is safety, or stability, or just the relief of not worrying about money anymore. Psychologists call this the arrival fallacy. And what they've found is that the moment you actually reach that number, it stops feeling like enough. The goalpost moves. Not because you're greedy or ungrateful, but because your brain recalibrates to your new reality almost immediately. The thing that was supposed to make you feel safe just becomes the new baseline, and the next number starts to look like the real target. You can spend your entire financial life running toward a finish line that moves at exactly your speed and never understand why you never feel like you've arrived. That's important. But I want to add something to this that I think is genuinely underappreciated. As people earn more money, they don't just spend more on things. They spend more on convenience. Delivery apps, subscriptions, house cleaners, dry cleaning pickup, meal kits, parking closer to the entrance, the faster shipping option. Every single one of these is individually small and completely reasonable. You're buying back time, and time is genuinely valuable. But here's what happens in practice. You get a raise, and then slowly, almost invisibly, a swarm of small convenience purchases expands to absorb that raise entirely. You're not making one big dumb decision. You're making 30 tiny sensible ones that collectively eat your entire income increase without you ever noticing. This is what I'd call the convenience tax, and it's one of the sneakiest reasons people feel like raises never actually change anything. And then there's the comparison problem, but from a different angle than the Harvard study. You look at the people around you, the nice cars, the vacations they post, the house upgrades, and you feel like everyone else is doing better than you financially. But here's what you're actually looking at. You're seeing the money they spent. The car, the trip, the renovated kitchen, those are the places where wealth used to be. Real wealth is invisible. It's the money that wasn't spent, sitting in an account somewhere, not showing up on anyone's Instagram. The person driving the expensive car might have less actual financial security than you do. You're comparing your full financial picture, including all your anxieties and uncertainties, to everyone else's highlight reel of purchases. And because wealth is invisible and spending is visible, almost everyone around you looks richer than they are. You're not falling behind. You're just seeing a distorted picture. So you've got the Diderot Effect, loss aversion, relative income comparison, the money illusion, the removal of the pain of paying, the arrival fallacy, the convenience tax, and a completely distorted view of what wealth looks like around you. Any one of these would be enough to make a person feel broke. All of them operating at the same time, silently, on someone who's never had them explained. That's why genuinely good earners feel like they're always just barely keeping up. But there's one more thing, and this one is about why the cycle keeps going even when you're aware of it. Your brain's dopamine system, the thing that drives motivation and reward, fires its biggest spike not when you get something, but when you're about to get it. The anticipation is the reward. The moment the package arrives, the moment you're actually wearing the thing or using the thing, the dopamine has already done its job and moved on. So the high is in the wanting, not the having, which means buying something gives you about 30 seconds of the feeling you were actually chasing, and then it flattens out. And because your brain is always looking to recreate that spike, you start looking for the next thing to want. You're not buying products. You're buying the feeling of anticipation over and over again, and the products are just the excuse. This is why people who treat themselves regularly still feel empty. The treat was never the point. The wanting was. Here's where we land. You feel broke even when you make good money because your lifestyle ratchets up and won't come back down. Because your brain compares you to people around you, not to an objective number. Because your raise might be losing to inflation. Because the payment systems you use every day were designed to remove the natural friction that used to slow spending down. Because the income milestone you're chasing will move the moment you reach it. Because convenience quietly absorbs every raise you get. Because you're comparing yourself to a distorted picture of other people's wealth. And because the thing you're actually chasing when you buy something is the dopamine hit of anticipation, which disappears the second you own it. None of this is a character flaw. These are systems, psychological, economic, and social, that were either built this way on purpose or have been understood by researchers for decades, without ever making it into the mainstream conversation. Duesenberry figured out the relative income piece back in 1949. He got ignored because his model admitted people don't spend rationally, and that was inconvenient for mainstream economics at the time. The guy explained your bank account 75 years ago, and nobody told you. So what do you actually do about it? You can't outdiscipline all of this with willpower. You have to change the system back, and 3 things genuinely work. First, put the friction back in. Use cash or a debit card for the spending you want to control, so your brain feels the money leave again. Second, pay yourself before your lifestyle does. Automate a transfer to savings the day you get paid, so a raise disappears upward into savings instead of sideways into spending. And third, choose your comparison on purpose. The feeling of being broke comes from who you measure yourself against. So pick that deliberately, and mute the feeds that quietly reset your baseline every time you scroll. None of those require earning a single dollar more. That was always the point. So here's my question for you. Of everything we covered, which one hit hardest? The Diderot Effect, the comparison trap, the dopamine loop? Tell me in the comments, because the honest answer is different for almost everyone. And if you want the deeper playbook on how to dismantle each one of these, that's exactly what this channel is here for. So stick around. Now you know. And knowing which force is actually working on you is the first real step toward taking your money back.